Welcome to Cruising the World with Dani and friends. Woo, I'm wrapping up 2023 and I'm trying something new. This is 2024. Um, I'm trying to be better at doing more podcasts and keeping up on everything. But my only excuse is that I work full time and super busy. So I'm trying something new for 2024. I'm trying YouTube live streaming. People have asked me to do it. I'm going to try it, see how it turns out. And hey, if it works, then I might continue to do some more. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to wrap up my 2023 personal, my Spotify tracks, what's happening, who my listeners are, and then I'm going to do a couple of highlights of what's happening in our cruising world for 2023 and some news items that kind of stand out to me. Some are funny, some aren't funny, some are real world. This is just what's happening in our world and I kind of what I see overall. And, you know, it's just our world is changing and cruising is getting more and more popular. And there's more and more people cruising and just more tourists in general. So I'm going to touch on some of that. So, wrapping up for 2023, I did do two cruises this year. I did the Panama Canal. I did the 15-day from LA to Fort Lauderdale. And I went all the way through the canal. And that was an amazing cruise. I had a great time. I do love the longer cruises. I feel like 7 days for me is just not long enough because I feel like at day five, they're putting the tags in my room telling me to get my luggage ready, and I'm not ready to get off yet. So 15 days was really a great way to relax and explore. It was a combination sea days, port days. And I love doing those longer cruises like in Europe, especially because those are a lot of port intensive cruises. So I also did a 7-day California coastal. Both of these I reviewed on my podcast with my husband, Johnny J. We did the 7-day coastal, which we've never done before in all our cruises. So that one was definitely more of a chill, relaxing cruise. It wasn't destination, intensive because we live in California and LA. So it was definitely more just a chilled cruise, but it was like a getaway cruise for me. That's what it felt like. It felt like a getaway cruise. It didn't feel like I'm exploring the new world. It was just like, okay, I'm familiar with all these places. So it was fun. It was like a getaway. So those were my two cruises. I'm going to, for 2024, I'm not sure what I'm doing or where I'm going. I'm trying to do Japan. Not sure if I'll be able to do it. That's my goal to get to Japan. If not, I might try. I might do Alaska again, even though I've done it 2 times. I might try a different cruise line. I might be looking at Seabourn, trying that out. And then I'm thinking also of trying to get do Canada and New England in the fall time. I haven't done that one either. My goal is to always try something new, even though I definitely would do repeats of Europe because I don't think I'd ever get tired of doing Europe. That's just me. And then, um, so we'll see how 2024 goes. But people are really coming back to cruises, and cruising is selling out. Ships are selling out. It's no more of the days after COVID where you get these amazing deals and the ships weren't as full. They're full now. They're full now and getting jam packed. So if you want to go, I suggest booking as early as you can to get the best cabin, and then check out the fares later if you're not. See if any fares go down, but I don't know if they'll go down. They might be going up. That's what we're hearing. So you can always do refares later on. So anyway, I'm doing a recap of my Spotify stats for 2023. And my top country now is US followers. It didn't used to be. I think my top US country was somebody else for a while, but it is US followers. Surprise. I guess because I am US and speak the language. And so it wasn't too much of a surprise for me. My top episode, though, that was the top episode of the year, was funny to me. It was the Panama Canal. Ocean to Ocean featuring Johnny J. So, I always like doing them with him because, we know each other. We're husband and wife. He doesn't like doing them quite so much. He's not a fan of them. Um, and I always make him do it with me because I'm like, hey, you and I were together on the cruise. Let's review it together. We can feed off each other, even though he likes to give me a hard time. So that was my most popular episode of the year. And some of my other stats were that 80%, 87% more people discovered me in 2023. So that was a good stat. I like that. I don't know how people find me. I have no idea. I just do it because it's something fun to do for me. When you want to do something, a podcast about what you know, this is what I know. The more I travel, the more I learn, the more I know. So I don't know everything. I feel like every time I travel, I learn something new. And it's a constant learning experience for me, even though it's someplace I've been before. So I think that um, that was a pretty cool stat. Many of my new listeners, this is pretty interesting, came from the life of a crew member working and living on a cruise ship featuring Molly Toby. I love Molly Toby. I so need to get her back on and do another podcast with her. I love her. She's someone that I met from working within the cruise industry, and she was on the ships. And she's English. She's hilarious, and she has a lot of funny stories. And so I really like knowing that that was a great stat to hear. She's on my Facebook feed, so I love seeing all her little posts and what's happening with her. It's always a new adventure with her. I was streamed in 11 countries. US was 61%. So I do know from previous stats that some of the countries have been as far as, well, like let's say Germany. I think Taiwan was one, just random different countries. I'm always surprised by that. Um, I think that's so cool. I love that. I don't know who they are that listen to me, but I appreciate anybody and everyone that does listen to me because I know there's a billion podcasts out there. So thank you everyone for that. And my most new listeners are from Canada. Eh? uh, you know, Canada, it's that's funny. I don't know why I have any listeners from Canada. I mean, I love Canada. What can I say? I used to live up near Canada. I used to live up in Oregon when I was younger, so would make a lot of trips up there. But I do want to do that New Canada and New England cruise because I want to go to Quebec. I've heard so many really cool things about Quebec, and that's where my ancestry comes from. So I really do want to go there and check it out. And plus, when I hear other people talking about it, I'm like, I so want to go there. I think it's going to be a really cool place. So that's definitely on my bucket list. I wanted to do I believe it's 10 or 11 days. And I think it goes from Boston to Quebec or vice versa. If I do it, of course, I will tell you all about it because I'm hearing things about it's cheaper going into Montreal or flying into Montreal and then going up to Quebec, kind of like insider tips. So those are just some of my stats from my podcast. I strive to do better. I always say I'm going to do better. And I usually, if anybody listens to me, I usually do them pretty raw. I pretty much leave all my mistakes in there, my stumbles, my everything, just because that's me. It's the way it is. I don't try to be perfect, and I don't try to make it something that I'm not. It's who I am. So yeah, you'll see me even drinking. Sometimes I might drink some water. Anyway, I want to talk about just some of the top news stories that happened in 2023. So it's not all about me. I do want to talk about what's going on in the world. And so I was just kind of going through some of the top, stories that kind of popped out to me. And one was that a Carnival cruise ship had to depart port early, and they urged their guests to return. I have a few feelings about this one, about maybe wait about what happens when you're on a cruise, especially when you're international. So it says that there's a lot of bad weather now in the world, and it does affect the cruise ships in many of the stories today. And the article was that, when bad weather threatens a cruise port, it's common for the ships to change itinerary and they have to avoid the port. So in mid-August, the Carnival Pride found itself already docked in Cork, Ireland. Well, I know that Princess does Cove, COPH. So Cork is the little city that's right by there. And severe weather struck, and it forced the ship to recall guests in order to depart earlier than planned. So the ship was cut short in the port by 2 hours. They used multiple methods used to contact the guest off the ship, including text messages, social media, the Carnival Hub app, and contacting tour operators. So at the time the decision was made to leave, the wind speeds and were expected to rise as high as 28 miles per hour, which is 45 kilometers per hour, and gusts potentially as high as 45 to 50 miles per hour. And they were very dangerous conditions for a dock cruise ship. When the mooring ropes might break or gangways could shift or collapse, and localized flooding was also expected in the region, which I find is, this is the summertime, and that's usually when they do the British Isles. They usually do the British Isles in the summertime. They don't do them in the winter. So, a couple things about that. One is this: um, when you are doing these shore excursions, a lot of people pick the ship's shore excursions, but many times you don't. And the reason people pick the ship's shore excursions is because they're guaranteed that the ship's not going to leave without them. I don't know if that happened in this case. I really don't know. Because I'm thinking if you don't have any sort of contact and you're on your own excursion or just doing your own thing around town and you didn't get that message, did the ship leave without you? And then what happens after that? I don't know. But I do know that a lot of times, especially in Europe, I am doing my own thing. And I don't have the international plan. So I'm really not texting anybody. I am doing more like social media, Wi Fi communications. Whew. So, that was pretty interesting to me. If it's really crazy weather, I might have probably headed back to the ship, because I know I was stuck in port once when I was in Germany, and it was really windy. We did go out for a little bit, but we came back early. So, another weather related story, and these are going to keep happening. I just thought it was really interesting that they tried to get everybody back, and I hope they did get everybody back, because what if they didn't? And well, the next part shouldn't be that far away. And here's another related story. It's Carnival. I'm not picking on you, Carnival. Carnival's the most popular, so there's going to be more news items about them. But this was where Carnival Cruise canceled all the ports, and it was then called the cruise going to nowhere. And people thought that they were punked, is what happened. So look, you're going to have itinerary changes. It happens to me probably once every cruise. I'm always surprised if I don't have an itinerary change or I can't get into a certain port. Pretty much every cruise there will be a port, and it's probably going to be the one that you really want to get into. And that's happened to me, and I've talked about it before. So, I just thought, hey, maybe I'll just do that cruise again, and maybe I'll get into it next time. It's not the end of the world. It is what it is. So this particular one was that bad weather played a role again. But what was unusual was that this cruise had to cancel all ports of call. Even an alternate that was arranged for the original cancellation, because poor weather is so widespread that there just wasn't any other place to go. This is what happened in mid-December on Carnival Freedom. They had to sail to nowhere. They had to cruise to nowhere instead of the Bahamas. So there was a massive storm. It impacted multiple ships at the time, for several days. But the Carnival Freedom had to completely cancel their itinerary, and the ship sailed. But the guests were generously compensated for the charges. However, they had $200 of onboard credit for stateroom, as well as a 50% future cruise credit based on the cruise fare, so they could visit ports of call on another Carnival cruise vacation in the summer. Now, typically what happens is this: you may or may not know this, but when you are clicking on that passage contract, um, well, a lot of people don't read the whole passage contract. If you're ever bored one day, then read it because I've read it a few times when I'm bored because I always find out something new on there, or I learn something new, or I'm like, oh, this is where it says that. Um, the passage contract is like, hey, they will tell you. We may not get into every port, and it is what it is. But I guess for the people that thought they were going to the Bahamas and they didn't get to go anywhere, I mean, that is super disappointing because usually you're taking these cruises in wintertime and people are escaping the cold going down to the warm beaches. And usually the summertime is, let's say, hurricane season. There's extreme weather now. So I guess that's going to be happening. But yeah, I remember reading this in the news, and passengers thought that they were being punked. Like, what's going on? Maybe they thought they didn't. Look, they don't have to give anything if they don't want you. I mean, you accept that passage contract. So some people probably think that they didn't get enough or whatever. I mean, who's to say? Um, so did the onboard credit and the 50% off future cruise make up for it? That's to be determined by whoever what you think and what it's worth. Um, this kind of stuff happens and it's going to keep happening. It's not going to go away, people. It's the way of the world. And here's the next news story, which I remember hearing about this. And I mean, it's kind of funny, but this is something you're not supposed to be doing. It was from a first time passenger. Oh my gosh, this happened on Carnival again. So sorry, Carnival. But it is what it is. Um, it was a passenger captured. He was captured fishing from the balcony, a cruise ship balcony. And so fishing, it's a popular excursion for many shore excursions in the Caribbean. But two guests on board the Carnival cruise ship docked in Nassau tried fishing from their stateroom balcony. They even show pictures of it. It's it's a disregard for local laws and cruise line policies. A video of this stunt went viral when it was posted in April, and the guests were identified and later banned from Carnival Cruise Line for life. Yes, you can be banned for life for many different things. I've heard many, many stories of how you can get banned. It can be from, throwing things off the balcony or whatever it is that you're doing. But yeah, you punched out the DJ. There's many stories I've heard. So yes, you can. So the ship the guests were on were never confirmed, but a blue Carnival sail and sign card is clearly visited in this video, and it definitely took place upon a Carnival ship. And the color of the card indicates that the sailing is the first for that guest, and with the ban, also the last sailing they will ever take with the cruise line. This cruise Carnival does permit guests to bring fishing rods aboard, which I find interesting. I guess you could, go fishing when you're in port, and as long as you follow whatever rules they are, but only for use off the ship and in appropriate places with certain permits that you have to have. Supposedly, no pole was used in this incident, just a spool of line and hook. Okay, I feel sorry for the poor fish, but yeah, I don't know the details if it was just a stunt. I don't know if they were serious. I don't know. I mean, I do know that they have shore excursions where, like in Alaska, they have shore excursions where you can actually go fishing for like you get salmon and they'll actually cook it on board is what I've heard. Or you can pack it in and it can come home. So anyway, that was kind of a little bit of news that was kind of like off the normal news. So I just thought that was kind of a funny one. But yeah, there's many things you can't do. Like, you can't sit on the rails. If you sit on the rails, at the thing, you can get banned. Like you cannot. That's where all the accidents happen. And accidents do happen. You have to really, really. I mean, it's like you're on a tall building. So yeah, you can't do that. My next bit of news is not on Carnival. This was on Royal Caribbean. They had an unusual water incident. The pools, hot tubs, thermal spa, splash pads. There's other features, water features on board that are super popular. But on Harmony of the Seas in January, there was a 6-deck waterfall that suddenly appeared from deck 15 down to Central Park on deck 8. So the ship doesn't have a deck 13, which most ships don't. Most ships don't have deck number 13 because it's bad luck. So they don't have it. But the pictures show like this big wave of water coming down. And if you've ever been on Royal, the Central Park is like, I don't know, it's like a city walkway. And so there are balconies that face to the ocean. They also have balconies that face inwards to the city park. It's really kind of a cool, I really like it. It's really cool. But anyway, they captured on video and it was the result of an overflowing pool. And the ship had an emergency course correction to avoid a small refugee craft in the Straits of Florida. So the abrupt turn caused it to overflow and the water didn't have anywhere to go but down. And so, yeah, it flooded. The resulting flood was quickly cleaned up by diligent crew members with no injuries reported and no lasting damage to the vessel. Although some Central Park plants may have been damaged by the deluge, these types of maneuvers can be startling, but they're completely safe and designed to protect smaller craft as well as the larger cruise ship. Let me tell you, if the ship is rocking in the ocean, what's going to happen is that it can be very, very rocky. Me and Johnny have talked about this where we've actually been in the pool and it's supposed to be just a flat, swimming pool, but it was so rocky because of the winds that we felt like we were in one of those wave pools like at Magic Mountain because we have this place called Hurricane Harbor by us where the waves will start, you know. And so we were in the pool. we were the only ones in there. We had so much fun. We were like, just going with the waves back and forth, and and I remember some people walking by like, what are they doing? I think that was the day that when we were doing that, Johnny had jumped in with the Samsung watch and it was ruined. Even though it's supposed to be water resistant, it's ruined. He had to get a new one. So yeah, a lot of fun, but we paid for it. So yeah, there was a waterfall on Royal Caribbean and things like that could very well happen. Hey, you didn't have to pay for that extra excitement. That's what I always tell people. We didn't charge you for that extra excitement. Things can happen. Just have to expect the unexpected. That's always my mantra. Here's another news thing. It's not. This is kind of more serious. I've heard this, and I think about it, but there is a warning that's issued for a popular Caribbean cruise destination, and there is many travel advisories in different regions. And sometimes I'm doing a cruise where, like, let's say I did the Panama and Nicaragua was on there. We did not go to Nicaragua. We did not go to Nicaragua because of civil unrest. And if the ship deems it necessary, they won't go there. Their ships are still going to Jamaica. That's it's an increased warning level. They did this in May, advising travelers to reconsider visiting this island nation. Crimes such as armed robbery, sexual assault, and homicides were cited as reasons for the raised alert level, along with ineffective police response. That is serious. Jamaica is the sixth most popular Caribbean cruise destination overall, and they have a lot of cool things to do for people, good shore excursions. But no cruise lines have revised their itinerary plans to exclude Jamaica yet, and the country has remained at a level 3, and travel alert is at least through the end of 2023. Every country has travel alerts, and I feel like when you go to that travel alert website, I can't remember what it is, if it's on the passport website, I think on there, I've seen the travel alerts. Boy, a lot of places have travel alerts. I mean, all through Mexico has travel alerts, and I still go down to Mexico on the cruise all the time because I love going down there. But the cruise guests, you're always encouraged to explore the ports via the shore excursions. And usually they're based on safety records and reliability. Tour operators through cruise lines excursions stay in contact with each ship and can advise the ship if there's delays or any other difficulties with an excursion, ensuring that their guests don't miss the ship if the tour is late. So, the way I looked at it is this: in Jamaica, I'm thinking if you are going on your own and maybe you're all by yourself or a small group of people, or not even a group of people, maybe only a couple people, then maybe you're going off the beaten track. And, you know, I feel like if it isn't safe, then yes. So, if I was doing it, would I get off the ship? Yeah, I get off the ship. I would probably do some sort of reputable shore excursion that is tied within the ship that I would feel safe doing. Because I know that I have gotten off in places where they tell me it's not safe, but I was fine with it. One of them was Naples, where they were like saying, "Oh yeah, you have to take a taxi. You can't walk." And guess what? I walked. I did a foodie tour with one of those Viator, and loved it. It was one of my favorite ever tours. So really, it's exercise caution and safety wherever you go. That would be my best recommendation. And so that was Jamaica. I haven't been to Jamaica. I haven't been to all the Caribbean ports. I've only been to a few of the ports in the Caribbean. There's a lot of islands to visit. I think that if you are East Coast, then you've probably been to all the Caribbean islands because that's where everybody goes. Where West Coasters do more Mexico and Hawaii. So anyway, moving on to that another this is something that's been happening not with just this destination I'm talking about coming up. It's happened to a few destinations is what's happening. Another cruise destination to limit cruise ship arrivals, which we know that's Venice is one of them, but this is actually the Orkney Islands, which is on the northern coast of Scotland. They're considering implementing restrictions on cruise ship arrivals in August. Local residents and businesses, they don't want to completely ban ships. They do rely on them for the tourist money. Um, that and frequent visitors of larger festivals slow can be overwhelming to the main port in the region. This is Kirkwall, which has a population of just over 10,000 residents. And on some days during the 2023 season, Kirkwall saw as many as 7,000 cruise ships guests or more visiting on a single day. Um, so that's, more than 230 cruise ships were scheduled in the region in 2023. And while the estimated it's 15 million boost to their economy's welcome, it's important to balance the needs of residents along with welcoming guests. So that is, gosh, it is a lot because um, the they want the tourist money. They don't want to be so overwhelmed, and they want people to be respectful because sometimes people aren't always respectful of the area. Um, Having said that, these are smaller places. I mean, you've got to think about how many thousands of people are coming off the ships in these ports, and you know how it can be just totally overwhelming. I believe Istanbul is saying the same thing. That was another one. Yep, that was the last one I'll talk about. It's Istanbul. They have concerns about it with the ship disruptions, and so the locals they don't mind the number of visitors in general. They don't mind that. I mean, look, they have that the Turkey the bazaar there, which I didn't get to go to when I go back, so I can experience that. Um, it's the overall size of the ships that block the harbor views and the horn blast that shatter the quiet, peaceful quiet. That's the greater irritant. So the interesting thing about this Galataport cruise terminal is underground, and therefore the terminal's own impact on the harbor is more minimal than typical. Of course, the cruise ships cannot be concealed and still present unavoidable problems. So, in Istanbul is a popular port of call and cruise home port in the Eastern Mediterranean. It will be curious to see whether this ongoing discontent grows in 2024 and beyond, or whether or not restrictions of ship noise or size may be implemented. So I totally understand that because let's say, they have these really cool, um, Mediterranean ports, and some of these are smaller islands. When these ships come in, even if it's just like a small, I know some in Greece have like maybe a small island. They can't have more than a certain amount of ships coming in. It's it's like this huge ship that you're looking at, and all that's all you see. It's this monster cruise ship. And if you're in Istanbul and you see these huge, like all these ships lined up there, it blocks their view. It literally blocks the view. I understand what they're saying. And so, I kind of I want to sort of that sees the both sides of everything, really. I understand both sides. I like to take both sides. I don't like to take one side or the other. That's just me because I want to listen to what the problem is and what's happening. Even everywhere is getting more crowded. I feel that especially in Europe, even if there wasn't cruise ships, the amount of people in the world and the amount of people that are traveling, it's very congested. It's very crowded. I'm starting to pick more off prime traveling month, so kind of staying away from the summer months as much as I can. That June, July, August, because that is the busiest times and it's the hottest in the Mediterranean. So I'm trying to pick more off times so it will be, gosh, um, better weather. Although there is definitely no guarantee, as I've mentioned today, with the different months and what's happened. Um, so I think that when there's more and more cruise ships coming in, more people traveling in general, I think that a lot of these places just can't handle that volume of people. So that's why sometimes they have a certain amount of ships that are limited to come into each port. I get it. Totally understand it. I totally get it. So that is happening. And I think that it's important for everybody to be respectful when they're traveling, especially into these places. Um, that's just my personal opinion about that. So those were some of the main news topics of 2023. There's always news. Every single day there's news. Some is bigger than others. Some are more important than others. It's a traveling world, and cruising is it's super interesting because you're getting thousands of people on this thing that's maneuvering you around the world, and I find it's a great way to travel, but I I think that you have to learn also to be respectful of the world, and it is important to um, consider everybody's um, ideas. So even if they're saying that they're limiting you know the ships that are coming in, it's because it's just too overwhelming. So we'll see what happens with my little podcast thing that I'm doing on YouTube Live. We'll see if it works. I don't have I'm just going to try it out and see what happens. Thank you for listening today. I am trying to get a couple new guests coming up. I have lined up, and if anybody would like to be a guest, I would love to interview you about whatever cruising experience you've had. And you can reach me at I'm cruising the world at gmail.com. Let me know. I'd be happy to try that out. And thank you to Jared forever editing my videos. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much for listening to I'm Cruising the World with Dani and Friends. Good night and welcome 2024.